love it, man. And first and foremost, like, thank you for reaching out, and thanks for, really fucking with the music,
Yeah,
because that to me is what it all comes down to. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
as an artist. So yeah, the whole reason I got into being an artist, the whole reason I made a run at this, music game, was I've been doing music my whole life. I've been,
right, right,
loving it. I grew up with hip hop. I grew up with friends rapping, freestyling, whatever. Um, but yeah, everything that you just said about community, about faith, about religious
hmm,
spirituality, that's why I really keep doing this music
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
is because I mean, I very much see myself as a community artist.
right,
I'm a Chinese American dude. I'm making music for Asian Americans, for the BIPOC larger, sort of community, and just for people in general who are down,
hmm,
And I think, like, for me, very much music shaped so much of my upbringing.
right, right,
Listening to Jay-Z, listening to Rakim, listening to Wu-Tang, listening to KRS-One, listening to Eminem, Lupe Fiasco, Kendrick Lamar. These kinds of artists really shaped my outlook on the world, and I wanted to recreate that same kind of impact,
hmm,
in whatever way I could. I really wanted to create things that would help people know how to see the world around them. You know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like my background is in philosophy. I studied
yeah,
philosophy in college, and what I realized is, like, we all see the same world,
hmm,
but we see it so differently. You know what I'm saying? If you're a Mexican kid who grew up in East LA, if you're an upper class person who grew up in the Bay Area, if you're a Chinese kid from Delaware like I am,
hmm,
if you're a black dude from Brooklyn growing up in the 80s, you see such different worlds. You see, and not to mention, like, women, queer folks, and so
right, right,
on. And to me, it was just adding my voice to that chorus, putting my little, helping to paint the picture of this side of the world that I've experienced just a little more vividly,
right,
so that people who come from that place know that this experience is beautiful. It's worthy of art. It's worthy of having people talk and praise and celebrate the
right,
experiences we share. And then also for those who don't.
right,
Like, I grew up. One of my favorite artists of all time is Mos Def, who's
hmm,
a very serious Muslim. He's very
yeah,
serious about his religion,
yeah,
and I'm not Muslim, but uh, the way he talks and lives out his Islamic faith
hmm,
is so powerful to me, and really influenced a lot of things about what I think about spirituality and what I think about being a good person, about
right,
being a
right,
kind person.
right,
Um, and yeah, and so then touching on the spirituality aspect of the question, for me, so much of it is, whatever, I'm Christian. I come from a
hmm,
Christian religious background, and I'm
yeah,
still practicing currently. But I think, I don't give a fuck whether you're Christian, atheist, Buddhist,
right, right, right,
whatever. Like, I think the whole point of the religion is to give. You know what I'm saying? Anytime that a religion turns and it becomes about building walls, and it
right,
becomes about listen to me, don't listen to them, it becomes about, hey, we got the truth and you have no truth, so come listen to us. That's not a religion I care about. You know what I'm saying? I got plenty of that. I got plenty of white supremacy. I got plenty of male patriarchy
hmm,
in the world. There's plenty of sources of information that demand your attention and your obedience. But to me, what's beautiful is when religion becomes about, like, hey, here's a gift. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? And I think, I've growing up, I heard a lot of Christians always say that, and don't know what they meant by that.
yeah,
But what I always took from it was that, if you're religious, then your religion should be a gift to the world, not a burden.
right,
I mean, that's actually in scripture. That's actually in Jesus said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
yeah,
The point is not to tell people, hey, y'all, I know y'all lives are difficult, and you got a million pressures, but let me add one more. That's the real, focus
right,
on this one. It should be to relieve, to relieve and to uplift, and that's the religion that I practice, and that's what I hope comes through, and it sounds like it does in the music. Like,
yeah,
we try to uplift people, we try to heal people, we try to help people um, get something so that they can go about their days and their lives a little easier and a little better,
Right.
you know?
Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you about this real quick because this is and understand when I'm asking sure it's I'm only coming from a standpoint where I understand what your mindset is because I've heard on several interviews that you've done about your faith where there was a point where you felt like you were about to walk away from it because you were not happy with what
Mm-hmm.
the way things were going on in life. And then, I can't recall how you said it, but I think it was something to the effect where I think you were at a really low point in your life, and then you had said a prayer, and then something had come to fruition for you to
Yeah.
come to realize that. Okay, so, but here's my question, and again, this is coming from the position where I want to understand where you're coming from with this, which is that if I always wondered if someone who went through a point in their life where they've come to a realization of what, in this case in prayer, you prayed and you've got your prayer answered and you come to a realization of what you meant to do. But I'm always curious that imagine if it was something else outside of that particular time in your life where it was someone else that influenced. Let's say, for example, was most deaf. He was right there at that moment and reached out to you and said, Allah, and then started going into Islam. Do you think that would have had the same impact on you too? Knowing his position, knowing his work ethic, knowing his spirituality and whatnot. Do you really think that that would also have helped influence you in creating the same music or the same path you've taken for you to spread the message, if you will? Do you think that would have been the case for you if there had been someone else?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think so. Like, I think,
Okay.
and even now, I have so many friends. My good friend Taz Ahmed, she's Muslim, and she's one of my like sort of big sisters that I really love and respect. Another one of my mentors out here in LA, Craig Taubman, he's Jewish. I've had so much input and wisdom and investment from mentors and
Mhm.
colleagues and friends who come from these different backgrounds.
I saw that interview you did with
Yeah,
Craig over at the church. Yeah, I did see that. That was like what,
yeah.
7, 8 years ago when you did that interview or something
Yeah,
like
that
that.
was a
Yeah.
little minute ago.
Yeah.
Craig's
Yeah.
been such a influence in my life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like I absolutely think that, um, and this was something that I actually learned. I was in a seminary class, and the professor made this point that he said that a moderate Christian or a progressive Christian, whatever,
Hmm.
whatever
Hmm.
you could say, like a moderate Christian and a moderate Muslim may have more in common with each other in terms of what they understand spirituality to be, how they practice religion, how they
Hmm.
live their lives,
Right. Right.
than a moderate Christian and a super right wing conservative Christian. And that's kind of how I like I think that in many ways everybody I've come into contact with that I really trust and respect, they've shaped sort of my outlook and my spirituality to the
Hmm.
point where I'm very much against tribalism. I'm very much against the idea of like, hey,
What does that mean
just
for you?
yeah.
Tribalism. What does
Hmm.
that mean for you?
To me it means like just gangs. you know Tribalism means you rep your set, and anyone who
Okay.
flags otherwise, that's the ops. But I think that that's just not helpful in terms of human flourishing, in terms of materially uplifting our people from their bondage and oppression. Because in the end, um, yeah, like I said, I'm very against tribalism. Just because someone's Christian, I don't necessarily assume like, hey, we're gonna see the world the same way. And it really just takes, if there is a group of people that I move more closely with, it's the people who see the world in sort of the same eyes that I do, and however they interpret it, however they understand that, and however they wherever they take wisdom and inspiration from,
Right.
I kind of don't care, as long as you living with hope, and you living with kindness, and you're living with grace, you're receiving grace, and you're giving grace.
Right.
So that's, yeah, I absolutely, I would say it's not even a hypothetical. I would say there have been so many points in my life where I've been low or I've been in need of something,
Hmm.
and the person who reaches out has this wealth of wisdom from a different tradition, and I'll receive it gladly. You know what I'm saying? Just because it isn't marked Christian doesn't mean I'm like skeptical, or I'm like, oh, I can't take that because shoot, man, when you hungry, you eat food from wherever. Feel me?
Hmm. True.
Yeah.
Well, so let me ask you right now about your your current stance on it here. I mean, do you because things look like they've gotten really good for you, and I understand there's still struggles along the way. It's like that for everybody, so I get that. But do you ever feel a sense of doubt at any point, if considering your habits that you've developed throughout the years of like feeling the depression kick in, or feeling a sense
Hmm.
of loneliness, if you will, where you have had those experiences on a frequent basis, but now that you're doing other things to not necessarily distract you, but to help you overcome that, but it creeps back in once in a while. Do you feel like you handle it better now, considering what you've been through and what you've learned, the people you've talked to? Like, do you feel like that has helped you formulate a much better thought process on how to handle yourself in those situations?
Yeah, man. I'm just super grateful to be alive and me today. You know what I'm saying?
True,
Like,
true.
it's a beautiful time. I got incredible community around me.
Yeah,
I got that line in Vibranium that says,
yeah,
"Invest in the community; they'll have your back.
yeah.
Believe in unity, but I'm prepared to scrap." Um, and that for me, like, kind of sums it up. I realized I was talking to one of my producers recently about how, for me, I think I realized when I write lines, when I write songs, some people uh, use money to signify confidence or to signify progress,
Mhm.
and other people use fame. And those are good metrics, definitely. If you was down bad before, now you got money. That's beautiful.
Helps with the
If
algorithm too.
yeah, yeah, it helps a lot. And same thing with material goods or with fame. If before you was trying to get heard and your voice was never heard, and now people paying attention, that's beautiful. But I realized for me, every time I sit down to write bars, what I tend habitually to go to as a signifier of progress and of growth is community, is like referencing who I'm walking with, referencing that I'm contributing to my community. And you ask about the things that have helped me progress, and the things that I turn to when I'm low these days. And it's all community. I've got an incredible agency, GGE, that my best friend and I co-founded,
Hmm.
and that team, that community has been incredible. Being part of the Asian American community in Los Angeles,
Hmm.
working with organizations like OCA, Asian American Advocates, working with the Chinese American Museum, realizing that I'm definitely not alone in in this journey. That has been so much.
So let me point out something real quick that I remember of what you said in the past about you know the sense of community you've helped that you've helped become a part of and also helped develop too. So once you started going through that, there's got to be a part of you that thinks, um, this is what I want to do. I mean,
Oh hell yeah.
let's go exclude the music side of it here too. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
that's what you always want to do, but removing that and then being a part of the community and actually going out of your way to create something meaningful. Like I would imagine for you, that was probably way more fulfilling than the actual music in itself. Well, you're using music as as that tool to help convey that message, but to create that community around you. I mean, I wonder that's got to be the most fulfilling side of it for you.
Yeah, I mean that's funny because, and this is why I'm just so grateful these days, man.
Mhm.
Because what I'm doing and how I'm doing it is just so, you know what I'm saying? Like to me, I can't speak of the music without speaking of the community. I
Mhm.
also can't speak of the community and my place in it without speaking of the music. So it's like I got my two favorite things in the world, and they're intertwined.
Right.
I've been thinking a lot this last couple months, as we all got vaccinated, and this summer was a lot of fun. We started having some more events, started seeing friends we hadn't seen in a while,
Mhm.
and yeah, I've driven home a lot of nights at 2 3 a.m. just thinking, man, like, when I moved to LA so many years ago, I remember being that guy who would show up at events and not know nobody, but want to be in the mix. And now, whenever the crew, the homies, whenever we go out, whenever we get together, we run into people, we see people, we go to our friends' places, our friends' own restaurants and bars and lounges, and to be in the mix like that is such a privilege. But I also gotta say, yeah, and that's my favorite thing. But also, I gotta say, the feeling of performing music live is also my favorite thing. Like when I'm on stage and there's these beats that my friends made and that I might have helped with a little, and there's these words and these melodies. I've told all of my friends have heard me say, like, there is a way that I feel alive on stage, or it doesn't even have to be on stage. I've done a lot of Zoom events over the last year, but just giving the music to people, I feel alive in a way that I don't feel alive any other time. And and it is very similar to the feeling of being in community
Right.
and seeing friends and knowing and being known. Both of those just add so much richness to my life. I really couldn't choose one, and again, I'm so grateful right now because I don't have to choose, because each one is a means to the other, to
So
the
they
end of the
complement
other.
each other to like help with
Yeah.
the, yeah, yeah. Well, so I want to ask you about you talked about how you love performing, and there's a lot of aspects about the music process, the music making process that you love. So I came across an interview that you had done, which this is something that was really unique about you, because I actually felt the same way about something that I do here, which is that you talked about how making a music video was the least favorite thing about
Oh,
the process.
definitely.
So, but here's the thing though, I never picked up on that, and it's weird because usually the people that are really good at it somehow, to some degree, I always feel like they like that particular process the worst, the most, I would say. So,
Hmm.
you find out that certain actors may hate the audition process, but they're great at it, or they would hate to do certain scenes in a film, but they're really good at it, but they just hate that proper. They love the end result, and that was pretty much what you had said too. So when I watch your music videos, there's a certain way that you move, that you know how to react to the camera, you know how to angle yourself for the shots. So there's certain things I picked up on that is always remained consistent, even with your most recent video that you did. I forgot the name of the
With Alan Foreigner, yeah.
right. Yeah. And even then, you still carry the same momentum too, with the movement, and everyone else. It's like, I wouldn't say they're following your lead, but I can see that they've watched your reaction, they're watching your movement, and then boom, they
Mm.
know when to step in. So obviously, you have that connection with them, and they know how to feed off of that. But when you are doing the videos, because you don't like that process a lot, how are you getting yourself to get yourself to feel that way, to convey convey that message, or let alone to provide that performance that's required to make the video, for lack of a better term, watchable, if you will.
Yeah, no, that man, I like that. That's a great question. I've never been asked that before.
Okay.
And but I do tell a lot of younger artists, people who've never been on a set, whether that's a TV shoot or a film shoot or a promo or a music video. Um, I respect actors so much
Yeah.
because what if you just watch content and you don't create it, what you don't know is that for every like 10 seconds or 20 seconds of
Mm-hmm.
content you see,
Yep.
those actors and everyone that you see on camera was probably sitting around for 30 to 45 minutes to an hour to waiting while the crew set up lights and set up props, and the director and the AD and the cinematographer stood there and looked at the frame and said, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
we need to change it." And so I respect, and I've learned so much from my friends who are actors, people like Tiffany Chu and Jake Choi and Ronnie Chang. Like, I've learned so much from these people, from seeing, just and talking with them about their craft. And so much of it is, anyone, a lot of different people can act, role play, or do
Mm-hmm.
whatever in the moment, in a fun moment. But it takes a real pro to show up to set, sit for 45 minutes, run your lines, run them again, sit for 30 minutes while they reset, run them, break for lunch,
Right.
come back and run the scene.
And
And
keep
that's
that
what's always
momentum going
going
too.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what's always going through my mind when I'm on a video shoot, is like, honestly, I'm not, and I hate this, but I'm not a very fun person on a video set, because I'm just literally, it's like I'm in a little bubble and I'm in a
All
little
right.
cocoon, and then when the director says action and they start playback and the music goes on, I gotta give my all.
Right.
You know, I gotta be in that headspace. Like being on a
I see what
music
you're
video
saying.
set
Mm-hmm.
to me feels like doing the first minute of a concert over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Before a concert, I'm not very fun. Before a show, I'm just sitting in the green room. I'm low key. I'm low energy. I'm not interacting with nobody. Afterwards, I'm super fun. I'm super like energetic, interacting with people before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just super in my head. And that's why I kind of hate music videos because it's just that experience of like the minute or 5 minutes or the 20 minutes before a fun show over and over and over again, and then you
Mm-hmm.
perform for 3 minutes, and then you wait again.
What? So when you, I want to know, is part of the reason why you also don't like it too? Is it because of the repetitive of listening to the song over, or listening to that line over and over again, having to repeat it? Is that also part of the added element of you not liking making the videos too? Because I just said that line 15 minutes. Yeah, we need to do it again from this angle because it didn't turn out that well. So we need you to repeat that again. But instead of doing like this, try like this, so that way we can get the shot that we need from this lighting, whatever. Like, does that also add to that? I wouldn't say what's the word I want to use? Like, does that add to that uneventfulness, if you will, for yourself? I guess is the right word to use.
Yeah, I mean, no, honestly, I love performing. I love performing for
Okay.
camera. I love performing. I remember the days, man, when I was performing for like open mic audiences of like 10 people, 5 people,
Yeah.
and then now to have videos that go out there or to do shows that are a little larger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing stadiums, I'm not doing big theaters, but I'm doing some fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anytime I get to just there's like I said, being on stage, being on camera, performing always feels amazing. And I know that, there's artists who have a big hit. They have a big hit and they got to tour that one hit over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And when that day comes, I might get sick of some of the music, but I love it. I love it. Whether it's a song I've done, 500 times, or if it's a brand new one. I just love getting lost in the music, and
Right.
I love rap music.
Right. Right.
So that part isn't the stress. The stress is just honestly, I'm an indie artist. I'm indie. I'm not entirely self-financed, but every time that we got a music video, I'm essentially executive producing as well.
Mm.
So a lot of the stress I think comes from me going, all right, I know we got 5 more shots. We're like 4 hours in. I know we got to do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the whole day that I'm on a music video shoot, in my mind, I'm just like, God, I hope we get all the footage that the editors need so it can make us look good. Um, so
What's the
that's where
wo-
I think a lot of it come from.
what's the one video that you shot that you were not happy with, and then you was salvaged enough for you to look back because it wasn't that bad?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, I will say, like, I think everything has worked out. I'd
Okay.
say everything, like, I can't remember a time when we were like, oh man, this was just bad. Like, I think, and over time, the stress has decreased because I understand that. I have that sort of, body of experience now to
Mm-hmm.
where I can go, all right, in this moment, it feels like we're running late or it feels like this ain't happening. But, I know it'll come together. So I don't think that the outcome has ever been like just whack, but I do think that the process of getting enough footage to make sure that songs, even these days, songs are short, minute 30, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Still,
Is that on
again, I
purpose
think
for
for
you?
people, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just I'll say like my attention span has decreased. I think back in the day, man, like radio songs would be like 4:30.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you got like 5 minute long songs,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I was growing up, radio edits were usually like 3:30.
Mm-hmm.
Album cuts might be like 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like 2 minutes. So, but I think what a lot of part of the decreasing attention span is you want it to be real fun. You know what I'm saying? If the first, this is something I learned from my YouTuber friends. Friend of mine who was working at BuzzFeed said,
Mm.
we realized and this was years ago already. He said, if the first 6 seconds don't give you a reason to watch the next 15 seconds, then they just turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think again, this is something that a lot of people who just consume media, which is great. I love that there are people who just love to watch and to partake. But if you're just a consumer, what you don't understand is that, again, for every 10 seconds that a video is, you gonna be shooting, 10 minutes of footage just to get the magical, like, oh, that was a good take, that facial gesture was on point, the
Mhm.
energy was on point, the lips were synced up.
Mhm.
And so I think like that's really where like a lot of my, going back to like my stress on set, comes down to like, man, I just want to give the people a good experience. And I know that we got all these things, plus then we're gonna try to get some b-roll, we're gonna try to get some establishing shots. um yeah, so that's where that comes from.
So the first video that you ever did, were you nervous because I know you performed before, but it's a different type of performance, right? You know, it's
Hmm.
all you have to do it by a certain pace to match up with the song, so that way you have everything synced up at the for the final edit. But were you nervous doing that for the first time? You know, having to learn, not experiencing that, not having that experience, but also to do it in front of a in an environment where people are watching you just to make sure that everything looks good, not to watch it because they were there because they wanted to see you do your thing. I mean, it's a different environment, I imagine, obviously, but was that something that you had noticed for yourself that was different that you had to get accustomed to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think honestly, going into the career, I was super confident. I was like, yo, I make cool music. I know how to perform on stage, man. I got this.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think at the and thank God for that, because I think if I came in nervous, I would have just gotten more anxious. But
Mm,
fortunately, I came in. I was like, yo, we're gonna do some cool shit. We're gonna make something cool. We're gonna put it out. It's gonna be great. And then it kind of like like beginner's luck and confidence, as I established my career, that kind of tapered off, but then
mm,
experience kind of took over. So
okay.
I'd say like generally I was fortunate that I started off with a lot of ego and energy and confidence, that gradually became like experience and confidence.
And wiser
um,
too in the process.
yeah, and,
Mm,
and and also major shout outs to all the directors and editors I've worked with in my career, like my friend Jason Poon,
mm-hmm.
our friends, like my boy Saki Boy, just have been able to film with people who had like a lot of energy and a lot of creative direction and a good eye, and were able to say like, hey man, like what if we did this? Like it wasn't all on my shoulders.
Right, right,
It's always like I said, going back to that idea of like, to me, community is so powerful. Friendships
right.
and relationships is so powerful, because without my friends, I wouldn't have my career. Without producers, without directors, I wouldn't be a sustainable independent artist.
So here's another question I want to ask about in pertaining to the video making process. So I'm going to use All You Can Eat as an example. So you're in the restaurant, but you're with the family that are running the restaurant, doing the video with them, with you being in that mindset. You know, you're not the most happiest there, but interacting with people who have never been in that environment and having to interact with them. Hey, I need you to stand over here and I'm going to be doing this. Can you just do this? Like, and whether they feel comfortable with it or not, or I'm not sure what are you going to do? And you're there to kind of guide them and say, don't worry, follow my lead. I'll be doing this. You just do that. And then you guys composite the shot together to make it look what it is now. But having people who have not been in that environment, does that add more to yourself as far as the stress level? Or are you having to take a step back and say, you know what, I'm going to have to open up a little bit more because my friend over here doesn't know how this works?
Yeah, it actually. So part of the process, right, when we're shooting a music video, is we don't just show up day of and go, "Yo, we're gonna try to do this, this, and that."
Mm-hmm.
So we did pre-production.
Oh, okay.
The week before. So Hot Woo, that's like my favorite restaurant in Chinatown, LA
Mm-hmm.
Chinatown, family owned. They've been there like 30, 40 years. Love Chef Pierre and his wife and their daughter Mary. Um, and so I reached out to Mary and said, hey, would it be cool if we shot here? We want to really, show what a beautiful and lively place your family establishment is. And she said, yeah. So we set up a time. We dropped by. We said, hey, I talked to her mom. I talked to her dad. I was like, hey, this is kind of what we're gonna do. Should take this long. We're just gonna be here and there. They were super accommodating,
Mm.
and so we kind of got a sense already of what their character is like.
Mm.
Like Mary's mom, who's always there at the front of Hop Woo. She's super outgoing. She's a people person. She told us, "Oh, I've got all these dresses that I wear at fancy things." So we kind of got a sense, that like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
she'd probably be pretty fun on camera. People who are extroverted, who like people, they're usually pretty good on. They're pretty natural on camera. So because of that pre-production work, and because we were able to sort of connect with them person to person beforehand, when we showed up, that was one of the smoother videos we've ever had because,
Oh, okay.
again, they were very kind, very accommodating. Um, and yeah, so that sort of thing actually, if anything, the fact that they're so willing to work, that they just wanted to make something cool, they were happy we were there, we were happy to be there. um, that all actually, if anything, decreased stress level, because it's like, hey, we're not on a sound stage where
Mm-hmm.
we've got, we rented this place for 4 hours, and every minute that we sit around we're burning money.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, hey, we're trying to do something for them, they're doing something for us. That was actually even more easier than it could have been if we were just like, um,
Coming in kind of cold
on,
turkey.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
on something that's a little more just like cut and dry, like, hey, we don't know you, but you paid us money to rent our location, so we're here, but we don't really know you,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just waiting for you to get out.
That's a nice combination there. All right. Well, listen, I always figured I meant to say with you that when it came to the path that you've taken, a part of me wonders about you if you are in a position where you know what you want, therefore you're selective as far as who you want to work with, or let alone, or if you're very possibly open, or may not, you may be open, but not as open as you were before with trying to work with other people. I'm not saying that you're not a people person. I'm not getting that, but I just wondered that because you have been moving forward with your career and now you're getting more and more attention. I mean, you for anyone that doesn't know, you had a song that was featured in Warrior, which
That's
I thought
right.
was really
That's
cool.
right.
And I
Thank
was
you.
like, and this is after the fact that I had learned who you were, and then obviously Warrior had come out, and thankfully he's coming back.
Hell
So
yeah.
yeah. So there was a part of me that wondered of, okay, this is going to change the trajectory of your career because the fact that the show highlights Asian hip hop, which is something that I think a lot of people don't realize that hip hop and Asian culture mix in very well with one another. Wu Tang being one of the biggest examples that where they've taken the name Wu Tang from I think it was the
Hmm.
36 Chambers, right?
That's
So
right.
a lot of these guys grew up with that stuff and they infiltrated that into their culture, right? So, and then to see that flipped around where you have Asian artists who are hip hop artists for an Asian show. So that to me like changed. Like I mean, I knew that that was going to be a game changer, but I was curious to see how that has an effect on you because now that you are going through what you're going through now, there's a part of me that wonders: are you more selective because of the either the offers or the opportunities that come about that you're being a little more cautious about how you want to go about it? Because it's one to say, "Oh my God, I'm getting all this stuff over here," and then you're willing to try everything, and then let it consume you, but because you've had experience with of depression and stress, you understand that you I would imagine your limitations and you know what you can and cannot handle. So as a result of that, you've got to take it one step at a time. So I'm wondering for you if that's kind of more or less the case of how you're approaching things now moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. This is something I think about all the time.
Okay.
I definitely know my boundaries.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I've definitely, um, yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you said. When I
Mm.
started my career, it was like, yo, just, I remember, man, I remember whole weeks when I'd just be like refreshing my inbox. Like, yo, I moved out here to be a professional artist.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to write. I'm ready to perform. And I would just be waiting for like somebody anywhere to say, hey, you want to come give some music? Hey, you want to give a talk? Hey, you want to collaborate? I'm a producer. I got beats for you. Um, And then very, 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 very thankfully, these days, things come in. We be in talks. I'm in talks with a certain thing right now. We got
Mm,
some negotiations for some shows coming up.
mm,
It's incredible, and along with that has come, um, I mean, I'm growing up. I'm maturing. I understand my boundaries and my limitations better.
mhm.
This is something that my best friend tells me over and over. I was just in D.C. I was
Right.
just in D.C. and for a performance, and my business partner, uh, we had a Zoom call scheduled one night after the show,
Mhm.
and it was a couple hours after. I was like, I'll probably be fine. We can probably do that. And he was like, no, something's gonna come up. You're performing. You're gonna go out to dinner with someone. People want to get drinks. Like, maybe we should push it. I was like, okay, you're right. And of course, I was out till 2 a.m. that night. So I'm learning. I'm growing.
Yeah.
I think I'm learning what's realistic, and then I'm also I'm definitely saying no to things these days, and I'm
That's
grateful
okay.
for that. And it's rarely, if ever, it's never because I don't like the person or I don't want to do something. I don't want to do something cool. But I would say the two factors for me these days are just first and foremost, do I believe in it?
Mhm.
There was a project recently that reached out about a certain thing, and I looked into it, and the company behind it was not a company that whose values are aligned with mine. Um, and I'm not a jerk about it. I'm not trying to be hardcore, like, oh, I don't work with anyone unless you're this. But it was just simply not the right opportunity, so we passed on it. um, and then the other, unfortunately, is like compensation. Like I've realized, um, out of care for my friends and my relationships and my emotional and spiritual well-being and my responsibilities, literally, if I spend an hour writing or creating content for this one thing, that's an hour that I'm not spending writing. That's an hour that I'm not spending, um, maintaining my relationships with the people that I care about and that are close to me. And so yeah, so these days, getting I and I mean, maybe this is just a semantics game, but to me it's rarely that I'm like, yo, I like saying no. But it's more that in the interest of saying yes to, things I've committed to, things I value, things I want to invest in, I'm gonna have to create, there's an opportunity cost. And so, if somebody wants to take 4 hours of my time, then that's then I need something from that in order
Yeah.
to be able to come to my team and say, hey, I spent 4 hours of my work week on this, and so now we can fund this other project. Or hey, I spent 3 hours in this studio session, and because of that, my relationship with this producer is strong, and we created some demos that might go on the next album.
Mhm.
So time management, relationship management, um, learning what to say yes to and what to say, hey, this isn't the right opportunity right now. That's been a huge learning curve,
Yeah.
because yeah, coming in the game, I was yes to everything.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want me, I want you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now it's at a point where I have responsibilities, and
Yeah.
I have commitments.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. I wanted to ask you about too, because there's that. It's one thing to walk in the industry to want to do something and get somewhere with that. And I understand that people have reasons for behind, because they have a passion for it, which is obviously the case with you. But the other side of it is that it's a business, and
Mm-hmm.
and it can be looked at in a negative light, because I'm not going to get into it here with on air with this, but I understand that people that you work with, and I'm not talking about you directly, but people that you work with may not be able to keep up or are going to be as good as they think they are, but they want to be a part of it. And you say, hey, that's great, but this is a train that's going to keep moving. And I cannot wait for you to catch up and then stall everything for myself, because I'm going this direction. I'm going at this speed. And if you can't keep, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go somewhere else, or I'll come back, or when you're prepared, or when you got your shit together, then, reach out to me. And if it's something that we can do something together that's going to be of value, then yeah, that's the business aspect of it. And I think that's where I've come to realize, I'm not saying it has happened, but I think I've come to realize that that's where the friction would come in. And that's where people will say, well, you do, before you were just cool guy who would say these things and you would say yes to everything. And all of a sudden you're saying, no, why? You think you're better? It's not that I'm not getting, not that I'm better. It's more about, it's a business. And unfortunately, the business side of it here is that I got to consider for what's best for myself, for my team, and those are going to be helping with the brand. That's the business side of it. But you're still my friend. We're still going to have drinks after work. So that's going to still be the same. But we don't mesh well in this area because we don't see
or that might not even be the same, because you know what I'm saying, like
yeah
it's
I know.
one thing when we're all working local, it's another thing when, like, oh man, yeah, I'm in New York for the next 3 weeks, and then I've got this thing in the Bay, and then I got a string of shows in the Midwest, and so I'll be back in town in a month, but while I'm in town I got to be in studio, so even that does change. Yeah, and I'll say also, like, this isn't just me applied to others. This is also, I've had friends who we maybe started out or we knew each other, and then they blew up, and then and it's been great because as I've had more profile, right? We had the songs placed on Warrior. Been doing a lot of really cool work with Hate is a Virus. Been able to this 501c3 created last year to unify the Asian American community and create education and mutual aid opportunities. As my work has become a little more public or become a little more, there's been a little more energy around it. These friends are they're cheering me on too, and so that's something that I've realized is like, and I can't speak for everyone,
Right.
but I'll say, like, I have friends who they couldn't help me get to that level. They had to ride their ride.
Right.
But then it was it's kind of like, I feel like we're at one stoplight chilling together, and then the light turned green and they took off, and I was like taking time to accelerate, but then we catch up with each other at the next stoplight.
Yeah.
And they're happy. It's people are always happy to see people around them win, but
Yeah.
they can't always make someone else around them win.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that that's something that I've really learned, because the way I take it, I don't take much personal, man. Like, if you don't got time for me right now, that probably just means that you hella busy, and that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And then, when my career or what I bring to the table has advanced enough that now it makes sense for us to talk again.
Yeah.
Like awesome. Like the way I see it is, like, if maybe another example would be like, hey, if you got a friend and y'all start out together in a startup, and then their startup gets acquired by Apple, now all of a sudden, the things that they're doing on a certain level. And to me, as an artist, as a person, as a business owner, the goal isn't to say, hey, why can't I eat from your Apple deal? The goal is for me to build my shit up to the point to where it makes sense for me to get a deal, or it makes sense for like, now my brand is built up to the point to where we can talk. That's just how I see it. I know that there's a lot of backstabbing and other little moves.
It's
but
complex,
I don't pay attention to that.
yeah. It's a very complex thing, which is where I'm starting to, I'm not saying that I'm experiencing, but I'm starting to notice with people who have started from somewhere, or even if you take a path that you're going to be you wanted to follow through with, it's something that you're going to have to be you're going to stick with, and you're going to stick with through thick and thin, and then you hope it pays off. Right. And I'm sure that, with the trajectory you're experiencing right now, that things are looking really good. And one thing I've noticed in the last year, since I've became aware of you, that it has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. For me, the pinnacle at that time was, I was like, Jason Chu on Warrior. I was like, what the fuck? I was blown away. And I was like, holy shit, I've been listening to that song. So I was like, this is what I was happy to see. So me as a fan, I was happy to see that, because if more people are aware of you, then for me, that means it's just getting better and better and better and better. And the opportunities that would come from that, I would imagine, would help you take a path that you probably would never consider before, that you may want to take up on now. And given your experience and your work ethic, you can infiltrate that with this new opportunities that are to be provided here for you, or you're going to be creating for yourself because you've been able to do all the things that's necessary to get to that point. So I'm very excited to see what you've got coming down the pipeline when it comes to that sort of stuff, because like I said before, I think what you offer is rather unique, because you do it in a way that um, it's accessible for you, and just based upon with what you've been hinting at here, it seems that there are bigger things coming down the pipeline that obviously you won't be able to indulge here with. But I'm excited to see what those opportunities are for you to see that come to fruition, man. I'm really, really happy to see that.
Shoot, thank you. Yeah, like I just, man, yeah, it's wild being an artist, you know,
Yeah.
because I mean, the reason I wanted to be an artist was because it touched my life so much. Art has shaped who I am,
Right.
but at the same time, you know, like it is. One of my favorite quotes, right, is like the sciences uh, teach us what life is biologically, you know, um, but art teaches us how to live, you know. But with that said, I fully understand, like, yo, if you know, just like art is also a luxury, you know. Art is
Right.
also something that, you know, if you in survival mode, art can give you the rallying cry, but you got to feed yourself somehow. You got to feed your
Yeah.
family somehow. So I don't take any of it for granted, but I'm so grateful that I've grown as an artist, that people, you know, such as yourself and such as my friends and followers, I'm still uncomfortable with the word fans, but
Yeah.
you know, people who've been on this journey and are joining me on this journey, um, that, you know, I think uh, there's something that I'm providing. There's something that I'm giving to help people get through the day,
Yeah.
and you know, I'm gonna keep trying to do that as long as I can.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm grateful. There's energy. There's a team. There's a community around me, and we do have some things that we're working on and some things that will be coming out that I think people will be excited to see.
I can't wait for that, man, because I know we're reaching that hour mark here. So I am extremely grateful that you've given the time out of your day to talk with me and given your busy schedule. So I'm very thankful for that. And I'm also thankful for Patrick and reaching out to you and conversing with you at the time, because had I not known, uh, had I not seen that interview, I probably would have never been privy to you at all. So I can't give you but nothing but high praise, man. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Shoot, thank you. Yeah, shout outs to Kuya P, shout outs
Yeah.
to, you know, Nerds of Color, shout outs to Keith, you know, and that whole team
Yeah.
and everyone, and thank you, man. Thank you. Like I gotta say, this is like uh one of the more in-depth and more like clearly I'm just honored, man, anytime somebody like actually knows what the career been about, because you
Yeah.
know, you've clearly uh done the research and looked into some things I've said and what I
Yeah.
stand for, and that I never take it for granted, man. So thank you so much for a great interview and a great time talking.
All right, man. Well, listen, I'll leave it to it. You do your thing, man, and I'll be on the lookout for the stuff. And I can't wait to see what you got coming down the pipeline. But until next time, man, just take care of yourselves and cheers.
Hey, take care.